Welcome back, friends. We are here with a major championship edition of The Drive presented by Odds Checker. I am Geoff Fienberg. With me, as always, is Andy Lack at ADP Lack Sports on Twitter. U.S. Open week, Oakmont, a true beaut,
Yeah,
a true beast, I guess, would be very appropriate. This feels like it has the vibe of a week that we haven't seen in a while in the golf world. So I am pretty excited. Andy, I will hand it over to you immediately here. Fill our listeners in on Oakmont. What skill set? Just lay it on us. Course preview. Give me your best.
I'll keep it brief because, it's a US Open, and I think that for the most part, Oakmont is really just, I don't know if exaggerated is the right word, maybe true, reasonable, fair. It's probably the best US Open, tried and true US Open venue that we have. And what is a modern US Open venue? It is a test of driving skill, right? That is just what the modern USGA has decided to do with their US Open venues is that they're going to identify the best driver of the ball in the world. And I believe that that will be the case at Oakmont. The player who is the best driver of the ball in this field, I believe will win this tournament. And the reason for that is not just because um, Oakmont accentuates if you are long and straight, but when you have rough this thick and a golf course that is long enough, if you're missing fairways and you are short and inaccurate, you are dead on arrival at this golf course in a way that you are not at other typical PGA Tour golf courses. So I think that this is going to be a test of the best driving and putting in the world. I don't even think that you can get super, super aggressive on approach. That doesn't mean that I don't think great iron players, are at a advantage. Of course, you need to be a great iron player. But at the end of the day, the modern US Open, Oakmont included, identifies the best driver of the golf ball in the world, long and straight. And I believe that to be that will be the case this week at Oakmont, Jeffrey.
So Dustin Johnson won here the last time we were here, 2016.
He is
I
the
was
best
lucky.
driver of the ball in the world that week.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be on that. It was 12 to 1, redemption from Chambers Bay the year before. Even the logo for Oakmont for the US Opens, that squirrel, it's like the blind squirrel will find his nut. And I'll tell you who I think that squirrel is going to be this time around. But before I do, we're going to talk about the top of the board here, Andy. Scotty Scheffler, per usual, coming in hot. I did just delete my grid in real time, so that is frustrating. I assume it is not 3 to 1 and isn't planning on getting there at the moment either. Plus 280 is the best number around that I'm seeing. Bryson 750, Rory Rom 12 to 1. I guess we will stop there. I have nothing in this zone. That being said,
Really?
I don't really trust anyone behind it yet. Yet. I have nothing here yet. I was on Bryson at the PGA at 18 to 1. I don't know that I want to go back at plus 750.
I
Like we
understand that.
like we spoke about previously though, Andy, here or elsewhere, if you were one of those late buyers on Bryson at the PGA at 8 to 1 or 750, 9 to 1, I think you probably should go back. I don't think this would be the appropriate time to get off. If I did have to make the bet here, though, I do lean Rom. And that is actually a lot more popular
Fair.
than I ever would have guessed, even after his great PGA championship. I'm just not betting Scotty Scheffler. I have more fun building a card sometimes than the actual golf tournament itself. So I'm going to build a card and hope Oakmont gets him. But the best player in the world, in my opinion, won last time we were here. And I'm kind of expecting that to happen again.
Yeah, I think Bryson's gonna win. I think that I bet 9 to 1. I think it's a fair number. I would make him the second favorite in this field. Um, I think that this Oakmont is like the Harvard Business School of driver putter. Like it is the most elevated version of driver putter that you are ever going to find in a golf course from an architecture standpoint. The best driver putter combination in the world is Bryson DeChambeau. I think that his driver is a lethal weapon. I think that his driving skill is borderline illegal. I mean, I don't know why other players on the PGA Tour don't try and use his crank driver. As a Scotty Scheffler backer at Quail Hollow, he was the only player that I was afraid of for 4 days straight. And I think that this golf course is going to accentuate elite driving skill even more so than Quail Hollow. And I think that it's going to accentuate elite putting skill even more so than Quail Hollow. And Bryson has that combination better than Scotty Scheffler. He has it better than Rahm. He has it better than any other player in the world, and I think he wins this week.
All right. So that probably means Andy is out of the running for names for a little bit. So
Yeah.
that'll probably leave me to take over. But I guess before I do, Andy, worth noting, obviously we mentioned Dustin winning in 16. Behind Dustin, Furyk, Lowry, Piercy, Garcia, Grace, Nod, Duffner, Zach Johnson. Um, Obviously the best player deserved to win. The best player won. But behind that, it was a lot of guys who were plotters, accuracy types, not some great putters in there as well. That being said, Oakmont, one of the things I'm most interested in this week, sort of nothing to do with betting, is how like modern equipment holds up with Oakmont and the modern
Yeah.
driver of the golf ball. And I'm expecting the course to be tough, but I'm expecting one of these great drivers to just be great this week and
Yeah.
probably feel like they're playing a different course than the other guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean the winner of the tournament's going to be long and straight. I I feel quite confident in that. I do think you'll have a couple guys in the top 10 that are just unbelievable putters like we had at Winged Foot. Um, but you know, the modern USGA setup, and I can't emphasize this enough, if you're taking one thing from all of the US Open content that you consume this week, take one sentence. And that one sentence is the modern USGA setup identifies the best driver of the ball in the field. That's it,
Okay.
period. No
Well,
need to
yeah, there's
over.
no secret. You look who's
Yeah.
won, Brooks, Rom,
Yeah.
all these guys. It's Bryson obviously caters that driver. I'm going down the board, Andy. I'll start, I guess, at 30 to 1 for me. I will be betting Ludwig Aberg.
hmm
Not playing the best golf, but between a Sunday at Memorial and a lovely little week.
He can be the best driver of the ball in the
Well,
field.
that's where I was going. And
Yeah.
there was three lovely rounds in Canada. There was a quad bogey that ruined a round and ruined really the tournament and maybe a scoring situation that would have been, a lot, flashier to look at. But he's a major champion in waiting. I have no doubt about that. That's not a hot take. Maybe I'm early. I usually am. But the second or the run at Pinehurst, I should say, obviously not second. That was Rory, and that second at his first Masters. Again, it just feels like it's all going to happen. I think this number for him is fair. I want to trust the ceiling. And speaking of the ceiling, I have my future bet: Yako Neiman, 40 to 1. You said
Mhm.
long and straight. That's Yako to me. Obviously, the books aren't giving us any discounts on Yako. Got that first major top 10 at the PGA Championship. I'm not going to overrate it. It was a step in the right direction. Obviously, it would be a huge leap for Yako to win, but you could just plug in play my PGA Championship take and the takes I always have with him. Like it's the eyeballs. The
Mhm.
eyeball test says this guy is the real deal. I
Mhm.
bet on talent. I'm betting on talent.
Mhm.
I could be wrong. I make wrong bets all the time responsibly. We all do. But I bet on talent, and I'm doing it again this week. Yako Neiman, I have 40. I think he's as good as all the guys in the 20s. If he was a regular tour player, he'd be with them, or maybe he would have had a chance to be shorter. So Yako Neiman is the squirrel who finds the nut this week in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
You hate it. I know. Just we can move on. We can move
yeah.
on. I see it in your face.
I
Don't
don't know
hate it, but it's winning's
I don't
hard.
know if he's enough of a ball knower would be my concern.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. But and there's no riding and hiding at Oakmont. And
Yeah.
that'll be
Yeah.
hard, but hey,
Yeah.
I'm in. I'm pot
I
committed. Andy,
no,
I'm
I
pot
get it. I
committed. We don't
want to
have to
be
debate
clear.
it.
I want to be clear. I don't hate it. I don't want you to characterize it that way. I have concerns about Neiman on this golf course that I didn't have
Sure.
about him at Quail Hollow.
Well, that
I
there's
say
concerns
that.
about everyone, but like four guys. So once we go about past those four, there's a lot of
Yeah.
concerns. We're gonna move further down the board. I really, I know you're not in this range, Andy, but let's pretend you weren't betting Bryson and you were
Yeah, yeah, of
playing
course.
more. Like, who might you have been playing here? Sepp Straka, incredibly popular. He can put the lights out and get hot on a difficult golf course. If it's going to get torturous, Terrell Hatton, everyone gets down to his level. I'm a fan of him. That's a future there. I don't know how much I love it, but big fan. Patrick Cantley, it'd be a big leap, but he hasn't been playing horrible, and the numbers really fair at 55 to 1. Have I said anyone or identify anyone in this mid range you would consider if you didn't bet Bryson?
Cantlay and Tommy. I mean, those would probably be my favorite guys in the mid tier, if I'm being honest with you. Um, I think they're the most well-rounded. I think they have the highest golf IQ on this golf course. They've shown it in US Opens. Patrick Cantlay's record in US Opens is really underrated. He's got five top 15s in US Opens in a row. He was, people forget this. I mean, he was in that US Open with Rory and Bryson to the back nine. I mean, he didn't eject from the Rory and Bryson just played better than him down the stretch, but Cantlay, Finau for that matter as well. Neither of those guys really ejected from Pinehurst, and that showed me a lot. I think he's been disappointing this week. He's been or this year. He's been disappointing in the sense that I believe that he is could be a top five talent in the world. And when you're a top five talent in the world, you should be winning golf tournaments. You should be winning multiple golf tournaments a year. And for that reason, I think he's been disappointing this year, but he's been playing really good golf. This is some of the best ball striking that we've seen out of Cantlay in his entire career. It's some of the best ball striking that we've seen out of Fleetwood in his entire career. Both those guys have been top 20 machines this year. And I think they probably have the highest likelihood to like finish top five at Oakmont is Fleetwood and Cantlay. Those would
Uh,
be my
I'm a
guys.
I'm a big fan of that. I mean, they've both been playing well enough to win that if they did spike this week, I don't think it would be the biggest shock. Maybe Tommy,
Yeah.
because people have their,
Yeah,
they've
yeah,
reached
I
conclusions.
think
But
so.
I'm not one of those guys. We're not giving them any credence. It's U.S. Open week, and I think Tommy could be up for the task. A major championship at Oakmont. Once you're clearing 50 to 1, to me, you're considered a long shot.
Yeah.
So there aren't many people
But do
actually.
you think there's anyone in this field I mean, Wyndham Clark won a US Open 2 years ago at 75 to 1. I made two bets above 100 to 1. My confidence level in them is kind of like, well, one of them's a major championship winner already, who I do believe can win, and one of them's a real long shot that has a good skill set for Oakmont. But I mean, did you fire on any long shots just for fun and games?
So, Wyndham Clark, I have this Pebble Beach flag over here. I nailed Woodland at over 100 to
What,
1.
what
So,
was he over 100 at Pebble?
well, he went off at 80 week of, but I had a
Yeah,
nice little Woodland future
future.
that year.
Yeah.
Still love Gary for that. The long shots that would interest me this week are Taylor Pendrith, and
Yep,
I
that's
have
it for
bet.
me.
Okay, and I've bet it's kind of like a prop, but I've bet Cam Young 80
Mm,
to 1 without Scotty, Rory, Rom, and Bryson. I know
fair
that's
enough.
like weird. That's a huge chunk off his odds checker grid of 150 to 1. I almost
Sure.
consider that a prop, but he's putting well, and you know how he can drive. And I bet him last week he finished third. Also at Sam Burns, who finished second. So heartbreaking kick for me last week, but major championship edition. We won't dwell on that. And Minwoo Lee, Andy, you've almost talked me into having to think about Minwoo Lee 170 to 1. The game's been lost a bit, but elite driver putter. But Pendrith might be my favorite here, but I do like Cam Young as well, as crazy as that sounds.
Fair enough. I bet Keegan Bradley at 100 to 1. I think he can win the golf tournament. He finished top 10 for me at the PGA Championship. He's a really well-rounded game, obviously a former major champion with a lot to play for right now and a remarkable resume in the Northeast, a remarkable resume on bent grass, a remarkable resume on championship golf courses. I just think 100 to 1's a little high for my taste. But that's it. That's the three-man card. It's Keegan, Pendy, and Bryson.
Keegan Bradley, if this thing gets to the winning score that some people are rumbling about, I mean, he's got a great ability to hit a lovely iron, two putt, and move to the next tee. So I
Hmm.
totally see that. And Captain Keegan, I mean, he'd be on the team if he does that one. U.S. Open week, U.S. Opens at Oakmont are probably my favorite event in the year. I'm not saying I like the U.S. Open more than the Masters per se, but U.S. Opens at Oakmont, I think I take over the Masters. So I'm super interested, fascinated to see how these modern drivers' equipments, Bryson in particular,
Mm.
does against what is long, considered the hardest course in America. You follow Andy, keep up with his stuff all week at Inside Sports Network. For me, Geoff Fienberg, we appreciate you watching another edition of The Drive. And before we get out, not all odds are created equal. And if you're not comparing, you could be leaving money on the table. Odds Checker is your one-stop shop for odds comparison and data-driven analysis across every major sport. They do the research so you can bet smarter and win bigger. Visit oddschecker.com today and get in on it. I'm on Ludwig. I'm on Neiman. Andy is on Bryson, Pendrith,
And
and Keegan
Keegan.
Bradley. Follow me at Twitter at gfeinberg17. I'll post my final card there after this video comes out. For Andy, I'm Geoff. We'll see you next week talking Travelers, but for now, it's US Open.